Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about Jasmy because I just want to give a quick update. In my opinion, we're seeing something that is very, very bullish because we actually made it, in my opinion, through one of the most precarious times that we'll probably see inside of the next probably 4 to 6 weeks, if I had to take a guess. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, so I could always be wrong. I don't know anything for certain, but just based on what we've seen so far in the chart, based on how the cycle shaped up so far and what we've seen over the past probably 6 to 8 weeks, I think that's kind of what we're seeing. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. I also want to look at the Jasmy chart overall, discuss that a little bit. I think things are looking really, really nice in there. And then I did also want to share with you some news regarding some token unlocks, which we did just see very, very recently. So anyway, let's go on ahead and dive right in. So starting out, what we can see looking at the crypto bubbles, pretty green day overall in the market. Jasmy up 2.2%, lagging a little bit behind kind of what we're seeing, if I had to guess, is like the market average, but still green, which is obviously always a good thing to see. If we do look at the week, we can see Jasmy up 2.8%. So again, still sitting, still not moving a whole lot, and this is actually lagging probably even further behind in comparison to what we're seeing from a lot of these others. XRP is kind of been one of the really, really big ones. XDC is another one. HBAR is another. Caspa's done relatively quite well. Also, Fartcoin being another one that's doing pretty well. Litecoin another. So, we have seen some pretty strong bounces from some of these older coins, particularly, Litecoin, XRP probably being the two biggest ones. But we've also seen, kind of some just overall move up in the market, but Jasmy, we haven't really seen it. But I don't know that this is too big of a deal, just because when we look at the chart, I think you'll probably see why. Again, now looking at the chart, let's actually blow this up so it's a little bit bigger. We can see something forming right now, which is a pretty steep wedge shaping up. Now we'll talk about the kind of the shape of this wedge right now, just because I've had to change it a little bit based on the last video that we did, just because we have seen some obviously additional price action and movement coming in within the chart. But what we can see is a pretty nice wedge looking and kind of forming up here. We can see actually even since like probably about the 20th of December, we've really seen price action get pretty constrained here. One thing that we have seen is a pretty strong hold over the 3-cent range, which if you remember from the last Jasmy video that we did, that was kind of like the really, really important thing that I was trying to stress is we have to hold above 3 cents. Obviously, we saw some scary price action here with some pretty big liquidation wicks coming out when we saw a pretty steep move to the downside just kind of in the overall crypto market. We obviously did, we came back hitting lows at about 2.6 cents, but we really didn't spend too much time. I think we closed we never even closed a candle below 3 cents. So holding that support really, really well, which is good to see. We have kind of dropped below the 3-cent range before, but again, like I said, we're not holding below it. Things looking really, really strong here on the Jasmy chart. If we do look at the wedge, I want to go over a couple of different options. Let's actually hide Bollinger Bands, because as we can see, nothing too crazy happening with Bollinger Bands. They're starting to constrict a little bit, but not as much as I would think we need to see like kind of a sudden spike in volatility. So let's just get rid of those for a quick second. What we can see is this is kind of how I'm drawing the wedge out right now. I don't love it. Like, it's not like a really like perfect tight looking wedge like we saw, particularly on like something like XRP when it broke out. I initially had the wedge kind of drawn like something similar to this, and we were then following this bottom support line. However, given we did, it looked like see a little bit of a breakout, but then obviously we saw the market kind of pull back, and we actually did break below this horizontal trend line that I thought we might be following. And so now I've kind of had to readjust this wedge a little bit. I mean, I think it's pretty clear to say and pretty clear to see from like a high level that we are still seeing price consolidate. It's consolidating pretty tightly from what we were seeing, even at just a month or two prior. But it's starting to take on some different forms from what we were maybe initially expecting to see. And we did kind of get what looked to be the beginning of a breakout, but obviously, a little bit of a fake out instead of a breakout. And so now we can see here on the bottom side, I decided to kind of pull it looking like this just because obviously we could include some of these wicks, but this to me again seems to be the line of best fit. We could maybe potentially take more of like a steeper angle and do something like this, and maybe it's coming in as more of like a descending channel more than like a wedge. This is still kind of consolidating as a wedge. This would give us a lot more flexibility to move way further down. Again, as I've said, I really do think that 3-cent range is a pretty important level to hold. So that's why I kind of didn't draw it like this, because I don't think that that really makes a whole lot of sense. I think something like this probably makes the most sense, just because we can see that it coming to a point much quicker. It doesn't give us a ton of room to come down below 3 cents though, but it does give us at least a little bit. And in my mind, that's kind of the important thing that we're expecting to see. Is I think kind of not imminently, but maybe within the next like week or so, we should probably be seeing a breakout and a move to the upside, given the like consolidation that we are seeing forming here in this wedge. We could potentially see this happen, given that we do see the inauguration of Donald Trump for US president here in the next handful of days. This would put us, so actually January 20th is right here. So this could right be at the edge of this wedge that we are forming in. So definitely possibly an option here. And then if we do see that break, obviously the first range we'd be looking at here is about this 4-cent range. We've been rejected twice here recently since we saw our recent highs. And then from there, we'd be about the 4.7-cent range. We were rejected here once, kind of after we came down from this initial pump, and then we're going to be like basically looking right back at that 6-cent range. If we zoom out a little bit further, we can see over time, we can see that we are still holding a pretty strong uptrend here. Obviously, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, not quite higher lows here, but then we obviously are continuing to see higher highs. So given this type of wedge that we are forming here, we could see again, another potential breakout. Maybe we run up to like the 7.5, maybe even the 8-cent range, kind of following in the magnitude of what we've seen. Even if we were to draw a trend line, let's say from like here to here, we'll have to probably perfect this a little bit, maybe something like that-ish. Again, not a perfect trend line, but kind of looks about the same. If we were to go and see, kind of the next breakout, let's say we hit it, maybe in May range, we're seeing it like 7-8 cents. So, that is potentially another possibility. Also, probably the more ideal possibilities, we do break out of this kind of ascending trend line, and then we can see some of these larger price targets that we have been looking to hit. 12 cents, I think, kind of being the main one here. That's kind of coming to some like, they're not even really the cycle highs. They're actually some highs like before the cycle. So, that would be a good place to see that. If we were to kind of follow this trend line, it would be a considerable amount of time before we hit that 12-cent range. We'd probably be looking realistically somewhere at like October of 2026, so about a year and a half. So we would want to see the break in this ascending trend line if we were to see some of these ridiculous staggering gains that we are hoping for. We've seen this happen with XRP, right? XRP looked like it wasn't really going to be doing anything for like multiple years at a time, and we have seen it break. It's going absolutely nuts right now. And so I do think that there's very much that possibility to see something similar with Jasmy. We just kind of have to wait for the right market conditions, wait for kind of the right narratives, the right thing, like tech implementations, a lot of that type of stuff, and then we could potentially see a run like that. This ascending trend line though is mainly just to say like, this would probably be another line of pseudo resistance as we kind of make it through, just because we've seen something similar-ish kind of over the past year or so. So just something to consider there. If you are interested in trading Jasmy, Bitcoin, Ethereum, anything else for that matter, feel free to use my link in the description below to BTCC. We are doing a 10% bonus on first-time deposits, which is really, really great. It's basically free money, and this is in addition to the extra bonuses of up to $10,055 per user. So if you are looking for a place to trade, BTCC is throwing a ton of money at you to get you to come over and trade with them. Really, really great option. Good exchange overall. You can see I do basically most of my charting, most of my analysis on BTCC. It's pretty simple and it's pretty slick to use. Been around for 13 years, so got a great track record, 300 plus crypto futures, tons of flexible leverage options, and then also no VPN or KYC necessary if that is something that's important to you. So like I said, if you are interested, just feel free to use the link in the description below, get signed up for BTCC, and potentially, take advantage of some of these potentially imminent moves coming within the next 4 or 5 days. And, we can kind of see that's how this is forming up on the chart. Very, very much a strong possibility that we do see some nice moves. And so given that, I don't know, we'll have to look at this a little bit closer, but if we look like we're going to be testing the upper end of this trend line, maybe I might take a little bit of like a higher leverage play just to kind of potentially capitalize on some of this move to the upside. If you can think we took a 10 or 20x leverage play and we go up to, the 6-cent range and maybe even up to like the 8-cent range that we were talking about, I mean, that would be some ridiculous gains. So definitely very, very motivating and incentivizing there. But like I said, you know, leverage trading is very risky. You need to know what you're doing and make sure that you're being careful if you do that. Moving on, I want to go over the news that we are seeing. Very, very recent news here. We can see that 50 million tokens were added into circulation by the deployer wallet 20 hours ago. So pretty recent overall. We can see the circulating supply is 49,444,999,677. So basically we are 98.89% diluted. So getting very, very close to fully diluted, which is great because at this point in time, I really wouldn't consider dilution too much in my calculus of if an investment's good or not. Obviously something like SUI where it's only about 30% diluted, very, very important to consider dilution when we're talking about that. But when we're here looking at something like Jasmy, 98.89 is basically fully diluted for all intents and purposes. We can see 555 million Jasmy tokens remain. You know, really not too important if you do ask me. A lot of what we're already seeing in the liquid market is just what it's going to be. And so now, as we've talked about multiple times in recent videos and even distant videos in the past, it's going to depend on kind of some of the lockup mechanisms. I know Jasmy has some extensive plans for locking up a ton of Jasmy. We haven't really seen any of those actually come into action yet. But again, if we do see those lockups happen, that's where we could really start to see some pretty wild price appreciation. And so I think that's what a lot of us are going to be looking towards, is seeing some of those lockup periods or some lockup incentives actually go live, because that's really what's going to, I think, incentivize price movement more than anything. So, you know, I'm very interested to see kind of what that looks like. Hopefully you guys found the information in this video useful. I do try to provide pretty strong Jasmy technical analysis, as well as just overall news updates of what's going on within the Jasmy ecosystem. Always different things happening. Primarily a lot of the cool and interesting things are going on are actually on the Jasmy chart. I feel like Jasmy is one of the easier charts to read and to play. Sometimes it's boring and it doesn't really move a whole lot. We can see recently a ton of consolidation happening, but when it does move, it moves hard and it moves fast, which is really, really cool and kind of exciting when we do actually see those. And it does test a lot of people and their patience, just because it can be boring, you know. And so, but overall, like I said, hopefully you do find the information in these videos useful. If you have any comments or questions or concerns or anything like that, just drop those in the comment section. I do try to read and respond to all of my comments. So if you have anything that you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.